What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and it's Tuesday, which means it's time for our weekly tier list Tuesday. And I thought, considering now that we're halfway through the 2025 Stanley Cup playoffs, only 4 teams remain, that we could look back on the 2025 trade deadline and kind of tier how these trades have gone. Only looking at it from the buyer side, what we know in terms of the guys that acquired talent, whether they ended up going on a deep run and are still alive or kind of petered out. This is going to be more so individual based. Just because the team is still alive doesn't mean one trade is fantastic if that player has not held up their end of the bargain. So yeah, let's get into it. Here are the different tiers. Great deal. Their team is most likely probably alive, and that player has been a big factor why they're still alive. Worth it. They didn't give up. What they gave up is about what they got in terms of production, what you expect. Overpay, a slight overpay. Maybe you gave up a little bit too much for a rental and then you didn't end up going on a run and that player didn't have that big of an impact, but it's not disastrous, doesn't impact the real future of the team. Horrible, but not a rental. You kind of got fleeced based on what happened, but that player still has another year or two on their deal where maybe they can turn it around. And then horrible in the rental. You gave up a bunch of assets. You didn't go that deep in the playoffs, and that player is going to be gone this offseason. Without further ado, let's get into it. Mikko Rantanen, no shit here. Great deal. Right now is pretty consensusly the Conn Smythe pick. Hat trick in Game 7 against Colorado Avalanche. What do you have, what was it, 10 points in his final 3 games or something like that in that series? Insane. He has been killing it. Very good against Winnipeg Jets as well. They gave up a decent amount to get him, but it's well worth it, especially considering he signed an extension, 8 years, $12 million. Not even some kind of rental. Jake Wallman, I'm going to go with great deal. You could argue maybe it just should be worth it. They did give up a first-round pick, but this is a guy that was very good handling 22, 23 minutes a night in San Jose. In the regular season for the Edmonton Oilers, 8 points in 15 games. Yes, they gave up that first-round pick. Yes, he hasn't been fantastic in the playoffs for them, but he has been pretty essential to that team, especially once Ekholm went down. We were a little bit hesitant on this trade when it happened because they had Darnell Nurse and Ekholm on the left side. They maybe don't beat the LA Kings if they don't have Jake Wallman, and he has another year at $3.4 million. That's what really makes this such a damn good deal, is if he was an unrestricted free agent this summer, he'd probably get a 5 by 5.5, 5 by 6. Meanwhile, Edmonton has him for another year in F them picks if you're the Edmonton Oilers. Ryan Lindgren, I got shit on for saying that this was a bad deal for the Colorado Avalanche. Not some kind of next level disaster. They gave up a second and a 4th round pick. But yeah, he was pretty damn bad for the Colorado Avalanche. He had a 44.3% expected goals percentage at 5-on-5 when he was off the ice. The Colorado Avalanche had a 61.2%. In that Game 7, this guy kind of walked him twice for 2 of his goals. So yeah, Ryan Lindgren, bad by Colorado. A lot of their deals might end up in this tier, but we shall see. Yeah, not good. He was horrible in New York. Wasn't that bad in Colorado, but still pretty bad. Brandon Tanev, overpay. Gave up a 2nd-round pick to get him. Didn't really do jack shit. Had a goose egg in 13 playoff games. At 5-on-5, got outscored 0-3. It's a 2nd-round pick, so I'm not sure. I mean, I guess you could say if I put Lindgren there, but Lindgren was actively hurting his team to a degree. Meanwhile, Tanev was just in that bottom 6, kind of going for a skate. Brad Marchand, great deal. No shit there. Probably the best player in the Leafs versus Panthers series. Yes, it got upgraded to a 1st-round pick, but if you're the Florida Panthers, you're elated because now you're in the Eastern Conference Finals. Great value for a guy that just hasn't lost a step. We thought maybe in the prior years his production went down. I guess that was more so just the Boston Bruins. He is still a stud. That 3rd line of Luosterainen and Lundell with Marchand has without a doubt been the best 3rd line in hockey in these playoffs. Maybe even just straight up a top 15 line in the playoffs. They've been insane. Anthony Beauvillier, they gave up a 2nd-round pick, their own 2nd-round pick, which is going to be very late. He was pretty damn good for them in the Montreal Canadiens series with 5 points in 5 games, only 1 point in the 2nd round, but no capital had more than 2 points in that series. So it was okay. It was worth it, in my opinion. Pretty decent. Maybe they re-sign him. Trent Frederick. I'm going to go with an overpayment, a 2nd-round pick, but it was St. Louis's 2nd-round pick, so it was going to be in the middle of that 2nd round. Didn't play. I think he only played 1 game for the Edmonton Oilers in the regular season. 3 points in 11 games right now for the Edmonton Oilers. They're in the Western Conference Finals. Maybe he can turn it around and end up making it a worth it, or I can't really say it'd be a great deal unless he completely goes off. But yeah, not awesome. Only playing around 10 minutes a night. The underlying numbers are not fantastic. He probably should have been worth a 3rd-round pick, if that makes sense. I'm not going to say it's horrible because, again, they're still playing, so he's doing something right to a degree. but not quite. I didn't like it in the moment that much. If it was Edmonton's second round pick, you can maybe say worth it, but it being St. Louis, not exactly love. Brian Dumoulin, this guy played 29 minutes a night in the first round for the New Jersey Devils. They lost in 5 games, so you might scream for me like, how is Frederic, who's still alive? But again, just individually, they did give up a second round pick, but he was well worth it. He was a beast for this New Jersey Devils team. He was basically their de facto number 1. So, yeah, they definitely got a decent amount of value from Brian Dumoulin. I wish they didn't make the trade because they didn't stand a chance when Jack Hughes went down. But for the value, it was actually pretty okay. Charlie Coyle, horrible, but not a rental. They gave up Casey Middlestat, who I understand Coyle's a better fit on that team, but Will Zellers, who was the USHL Player of the Year this year in his draft year +1 in the second round pick on top of that. For Coyle, who did have a pretty good regular season with them, 2 goals, 11 assists, 13 points in 19 games. But come playoff time, 1 goal, 0 assists in 7 playoff games. The underlying numbers were not very good either. They lost to the Dallas Stars. He still has another year at $5.9 million this season, only 35 points. Is he going to be worth that $5.25 million cap hit even next year? We'll see, but it was a decent amount to give up. Pretty shocking amount because Middlestat, he could easily rebound and be a 50-point guy yet again. So I thought that deal was pretty goddamn bad. Zetterlund... Again, the actual production for him in Ottawa wasn't there, but I refuse to believe that a guy that put up back-to-back 40-point seasons, and he's a restricted free agent, so it's not some kind of rental. They're going to re-sign him. Maybe this is just Ottawa bias, but I still think he's a very good player, and I think that he's going to come back for the Ottawa Senators and be well worth his contract. This was more so a long-term deal by the Ottawa Senators. Next up, JT Miller. I'm going to go with worth it, although I think that it was a bad fit considering the Rangers should not have been trading their first round pick, of course, which ended up being 12th overall, which we'll also talk about in the Marcus Pettersson deal. But objectively, JT Miller, when he's on his game, is a point per game, 90-point physical guy that is still a number 1 center. Just again, fit in what the team actually needed. The team badly needed defense, not more so of an offensive-minded center. I didn't love it from that perspective, but objectively, I can't say it's an overpayment when and they also got off Philip Hedl, who is consistently hurt, so I can't be too biased. It's definitely not a great deal because again, they still missed the playoffs and it's still fit-wise is not perfect. Marcus Pettersson, I'm gonna go with an overpayment. I did like this deal in the moment a decent amount because I assumed the New York Rangers were gonna be a competent team down the stretch and either just barely missed the playoffs where it would have been 15th or 16th overall or made the playoffs and have it be 19th or 20th overall. Of course, the Rangers missed the playoffs in giving up the 12th overall pick for Marcus Pettersson, who's like a very good number 3 defenseman going forward. And they did lock up Marcus Pettersson. It's not like it's some kind of rental. Then it would definitely be all the way down here. But yeah, it's an overpayment just because what it ended up. Applying hindsight with this definitely makes it an overpayment. Brock Nelson, another Colorado Avalanche player in those bottom tiers. Callum Ritchie in a first-round pick for Brock Nelson, who had 0 goals, 4 assists in the 7-game series against the Dallas Stars. That's bad. That's so bad. And, like their best prospect by a country mile that could have been NHL ready next year. I think he's probably going to play for the New York Islanders. Not saying he would have made it for Colorado. But yeah, for Nelson, crazy stuff. That is arguably the worst deadline move. Riley Smith, I'll go worth it. He was fine for them. Had a big goal, obviously, against Edmonton. They gave up a 3rd-round pick. It was San Jose's 3rd-round pick, which is going to be the top of the round. But, yeah, I think if you're Vegas, that was an okay swing, considering they weren't going to go nuclear all in like they did the prior season with Hanifin and Hurdle. So it's worth it. A late 2nd, early 3rd. Carson Soucy, I'll go with an overpayment. They then flipped what they got for Riley Smith. They flipped for Carson Soucy. He still has another year at 3.25. He was pretty bad this season, though. He definitely needs to play bad. This season, he was legit a replacement-level defenseman, number 6 kind of guy. He was fine with Fox. He was really good with Fox, but Fox makes everybody look good. Outside of Fox, he was pretty bad on New York. So it's definitely an overpayment. They just shouldn't have made this deal. They should have kept the 3rd-round pick, in my opinion. Brandon Carlo, horrible, but not a rental. When looking at Brandon Carlo, obviously you don't expect much offensively, but had 3 points in 20 regular season games, 0 points in 13 playoff games, and even him and Riley Smith as a pair, he was not able to cover for some of Riley Smith's deficiencies. Morgan Riley's defensive deficiencies. He wasn't that good defensively in his own right. He has another 2 years or a year or 2 years left at 3.5 because they got a little bit of retention on that. But yeah, he's a stay-at-home second-pair defensive defenseman, and they gave up Fraser Midden in a first-round pick. I think that first-round pick has more value than Fraser Midden, but still, that's the equivalent of at least a first and a second-round pick. For a guy that's not that much of a difference maker, I'm not too big on that. Luke Schenn, I'll go with an overpayment. Gave up a second and a fourth round pick. He does have another year at $2.75 million. Again, he's an okay bottom pair guy that hits a decent amount but doesn't really do much. He's basically their number 6 defenseman. But sure, you get him for next year as well, below $3 million. Dylan Cousins, worth it. They got a second round pick and gave up Josh Norris for Dylan Cousins. You could argue that the Buffalo Sabres that actually technically bought in this deal, but I just wanted to go from an Ottawa perspective and be biased. But yeah, he was awesome for them in the regular season. When looking at Dylan Cousins, 16 points in 21 games, only 2 points in the playoff series. But yeah, getting off Josh Norris was fantastic, and they picked up what next year could be a decently high second round if Buffalo does not figure it out. Granlund, great deal. Gave up a first-round pick, got Cody Ceci as well. Granlund is not numbers-wise killed it this series, outside of course, that Game 4 against the Winnipeg Jets where he put the team on his back and basically won it for them with the hat trick. But his line with Rantanen and Hintz have been so damn good. They've outscored opponents 7-2 in these playoffs. Yeah, he's been awesome. 7 points in 13 games, and I think that even is lowballing how big of an impact he has had. Cody Glass didn't really do much. He came out of the gates firing for the New Jersey Devils. He had 5 points in his first 5 games, but then finished with 7 and 14 in the regular season, 0 points in 5 games. Only gave up a third-round pick, so you can't go crazy over it, but basically had no impact when the going got tough. Andrei Kuzmenko, it's a great deal. Only gave up a third-round pick for Kuzmenko. He had, let me pull it up real quick, he had 17 points in 22 games in the regular season, and then 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points in 6 games in the playoffs. Maybe not the best defensively, but you don't trade for Andrei Kuzmenko expecting great defense. He came through offensively, and yeah, for a low cost of acquisition to get that much of an offensive impact was pretty damn good. The last Rob Blake trade deadline, although he probably should have done more to potentially keep his job, he did kind of hit a little bit of a home run with Andrei Kuzmenko. Gustav Nyquist was pretty goddamn bad, though. When looking at him, you expected the Minnesota Wild gave up a second-round pick. They expected to get something between what Nyquist was last season with 75 points and this year when he was around like 30-point pace. He was somehow like even worse than he was this season for Nashville. He had 7 points in 22 regular season games. He had 0 points in 6 playoff games, including that crucial offsides in Game 5 that would have put the Minnesota Wild basically up 3-2 in the series on the Hartman goal late in that. So yeah, he actively hurt the team, and they gave up a second-round pick to get him, and they probably should not re-sign him unless he wants to make like $1.52 million. Scott Laughton, horrible, but not a rental. He still has 1 more year at $1.5 million, but to give up a first, to give up a first in Gulbenkian, that was pretty bad for Scott Laughton, even at 50% retained, considering what he did in Toronto. 4 points in 20 regular season games, 0 points in the Florida Panthers series, 2 assists in the Ottawa Senators series. Overall in the playoffs, he had a 35.5% expected goals percentage. Yes, the core 4 is why they ended up losing, but also Scott Laughton provided nada for depth. Simply unacceptable. And then lastly, Seth Jones. I got to give this trade flowers. I was a little bit critical on it, and I still really like it for Chicago. They got Spencer Knight. They got a first-round pick. Good work by them. But yeah, Seth Jones being able to play on a far better team, playing with guys like Forsling and Mikkola, has really just elevated his game. He doesn't have as much pressure. Doesn't have to play 26 minutes a night. He looks much faster in Florida. In that Game 7, he was the best player on the ice, arguably, in terms of the 5-on-5 play. Whether he's with Forsling or Mikkola, his total numbers at 5-on-5, he's outscored opponents 10-6. He looks like 2016, 2017 Columbus Blue Jackets Seth Jones, and it's awesome. At $7 million, getting that retained money, it's a net positive contract going forward. Great job by Bill Zito. Shocking, the Florida Panthers and the Dallas Stars and even the Edmonton Oilers. 5 out of the 6 teams, 5 out of the 6 deals in great deal are still alive in the playoffs. Crazy how that works. But yeah, let me know in the comments. What do you think about this? Who would you move up? Who would you move down? I don't think that this is that controversial. I think it's pretty standard. This might be my least controversial tier list of all time. I'll be seeing you in the next one. Peace.